Today, I want to talk about something most veterinary practice owners feel in their gut long before they ever see it clearly in their bank account. These small financial warning signs that show up, get brushed off, and then slowly turn into, how are we this busy and still this stressed about money? If you've ever looked at your production numbers and thought, we're slammed, so why doesn't it feel like it in the bank account? This conversation is for you. Today's topic is 9 financial red flags you can't afford to ignore in your veterinary practice. And when I say red flags, I'm not talking about obvious emergencies. I'm talking about patterns that quietly show up in your financials and your cash flow, and your day-to-day operations that are telling you something is off. Most of the time, dogs. Most of the time, by the time your gut is screaming, the numbers have been waving those red flags for months. Give me 1 second. Got a child in the house being super noisy. Sorry. Numbers have been waving those red flags for months. Let me get this share going. Okay. Excuse me. What we're going to do tonight is walk through 9 of the most common red flags I see over and over again inside veterinary practices. These are the patterns that slowly choke profit, drain your energy, and make it feel impossible to step away or slow down without things unraveling. My goal here isn't to shame anyone or overwhelm you with accounting jargon. The goal is clarity. I want you to be able to look at your own numbers and say, okay, this is where the issue actually is, and this is what I need to work on first. Here's how we'll move through this together. I'll briefly introduce myself um, in case we haven't met, and then we'll walk through these 9 red flags in simple groupings so it doesn't feel like a firehouse or fire hose. Sorry. We'll talk about what they look like in real life, why they matter, and what they're usually pointing to under the surface. At the end, we'll do a quick self-check. You can a quick self-check that you can use monthly. Plus, I'll share what a healthy weekly or monthly financial rhythm actually looks like, so you're not just reacting, you're steering the ship on purpose. If you're watching live, say live in the comments so I know you're here with me. If you're catching the replay, type replay and still play along. And make sure you stick with me until the end because that self-check alone can save you from a lot of unnecessary stress down the road. For those of you who are new here, hi, I'm Cassie. I live here in East Texas. I'm an enrolled agent and spend my days buried in the financial side of veterinary practices. So I speak clinic chaos fluently. If I didn't grow up with a silver spoon or a bunch of financial education. I had to figure this stuff out the hard way. I know what it feels like to be working nonstop, to be exhausted, and to still feel like the numbers don't make sense. I'm married. I have two kids. I juggle family, business, and all the plates just like you do. So when I talk about red flags, I'm not talking from theory. I'm talking as someone who sees this every single week in real clinics with real owners who care deeply about their teams and their patients and are just trying to make the business side less of a constant stressor. So that's who I am in a nutshell. Let's dig into these red flags so you can start seeing your own practice more clearly. Number 1 is you're busy but broke. So the first 2 red flags are what I call the busy but broke problem, and they usually show up together. Number 1 is when production and revenue are up, the clinic feels slammed, the schedule is packed, but somehow there is still no consistent owner pay. You might be pulling money out in random chunks when you can, or you're last in line after everyone else gets paid. If your team is getting paid, your vendors are getting paid, but you feel like you're constantly scraping to pay yourself, that's a red flag. Number 2 is when there's never enough cash to feel safe. Maybe payroll day always feels stressful. Maybe you're constantly shuffling between accounts or putting off vendor bills because you're trying to time everything just right. Maybe you have no real emergency cushion, so every broken piece of equipment turns into a mini crisis. When those 2 red flags show up together, what they're really saying is this: the practice can produce, but the money isn't being stewarded in a way that actually creates margin for you as the owner. It usually means there's a disconnect between pricing, expenses, and how money flows out of the practice. If you're listening to this and thinking, that's me, you're not alone. It doesn't mean you're bad with money. It just means the system you're operating in isn't set up to support you as the owner. Number three is payroll. And payroll and team costs out of balance. So the next pair of red flags live inside your payroll and your team costs. Number three is, payroll that is creeping higher and higher as a percentage of your revenue without a matching increase in profit or efficiency. That might show up as constant overtime, a lot of we're short staffed, so we just have to suck it up, or paying high wages for roles that aren't clearly defined. You just know that every time you run payroll, your stomach drops a little. Number four is when you feel like you're paying a lot for help, but you're still doing everything. You might have managers or leads on the org chart, but in reality, you're still the one tracking down inventory, double checking invoices, dealing with vendors, and answering every financial or operational question. You're paying for support, but not getting the relief. Together, these flags usually mean your team structure and your compensation plan don't match the actual work that needs to be done. It's not always you're paying too much. Sometimes it's that you're paying in the wrong places. If you're feeling maxed out as the owner and payroll is one of your biggest expenses, that combination is something we can't ignore. That's a sign to step back and look at roles, responsibilities, and whether the dollars you're spending on payroll are tied to actual results and accountability. Number five, the next two, which are about money leaking out through inventory and client balances. Number five is inventory that feels like it has a mind of its own. You're constantly running out of key items, then over ordering to compensate. Shelves are full of slow moving or expired products, but somehow you're still spending a ton on inventory each month. You don't really know your inventory turns, you don't have clear minimums and maximums, and nobody really owns that area in a structured way. Number six is in-house financing or client balances that have gotten out of hand. Maybe you offer payment plans, allow balances to sit on the books, or you're using multiple third-party options and not really tracking what's collectible versus just what's wishful thinking. You might see a big accounts receivable number on your report, but have no real system to work it, or worse, no idea if it's even accurate. These two red flags matter because they directly squeeze your cash. Inventory that isn't managed well silently eats your profit. Client balances that aren't structured or monitored means you're effectively giving out interest-free loans with no guarantee of payment. When I see these together in a practice, I know the owner feels like we're working so hard, but the money just disappears. If that resonates, this is an area with huge opportunity to clean up systems and get your cash working for you instead of against you. The next set of red flags has nothing to do with how smart you are and everything to do with visibility. Sorry. Which ones are we on? 7, 8. So number 7 is not having clean, up-to-date financials each month. This might mean your books are months behind, your P&L doesn't make sense, or your categories are so messy that you don't trust the reports. Maybe you only hear about how you did once a year at tax time, and it's always a surprise. Number 8 is, sorry, they're together. Number 8 is never actually looking at the numbers you do have. Maybe you do get reports, but you don't really sit down and review them. You glance at revenue, maybe profit, but you're not consistently looking at things like payroll percentage, inventory percentage, or whether your expenses are creeping up. When these two red flags are present, you're running your practice by feeling instead of facts. It's like driving at night with your headlights off and going, I hope we're still on the road. That feeling of constant anxiety, of not knowing how you're really doing, comes from a lack of visibility, not from you being bad with money. A healthy practice needs both clean, consistent numbers and a simple, reasonable way to review them. When you're missing either piece, it becomes almost impossible to make good decisions because everything feels like a guess. Number nine is the last one I want to talk about. It's the one that shows up at tax time, which is now. But it starts long before that. So, number nine is being surprised by your tax bill every single year. One year you owe a lot, the next year you get a big refund, then you owe again. It feels random. There's no real plan for how taxes fit into your cash flow. Maybe you're not making estimated tax payments, or you're making them, but you're never sure if they're enough. What this tells me is that taxes are being treated as a once a year event instead of something that's built into your ongoing financial rhythm. It's also a sign that no one has sat down with you to connect your actual practice numbers, your owner pay, and your tax situation into one clear picture. Here's the thing. Tax surprises are stressful, but they're also fixable. When you have clean books, when you're looking at your numbers regularly, and when you run true year-end planning before December 31st, that's when taxes stop being random and start being something you can anticipate, plan for, and minimize legally. If every tax season feels like roulette, that's a red flag that you truly can't afford to ignore. Now that we've talked through all nine red flags, I want you to notice something. None of these red flags said you're bad at this or you should have known better. They're all about systems, structure, and visibility. When I step into a veterinary practice and see these patterns, what they're really telling me is this. The practice has grown, the complexity has grown, but the financial systems haven't kept up. You have more staff, more patients, more moving parts, but you're still trying to run the money side the way you did when it was just you and a small team. The good news is that red flags are information. They're not judgment, they're just signals. And once you can see them clearly, you can decide which one am I going to tackle first. So don't feel like you have to fix everything at once. Instead, listen for the one or two red flags that made you want to roll your eyes and say, okay, that's definitely us. Those are your starting points. Whoops. So quick self-check together. You can do this mentally, or if you're watching the replay, pause and jot it down. I want you to think through the nine red flags we just talked about and ask yourself a simple question. Which three show up the most clearly in your practice right now? Is it the busy but broke owner pay issue? Is it payroll and staffing? Is it inventory and client balances? Is it the lack of clean numbers or the constant tax surprise? You don't have to put this in the comments if you don't want to, but if you're comfortable, share one red flag that you know is present in your practice. Just type owner pay or inventory or AR or tax surprises, whatever fits you. Once you've identified your top 1 to 3, I want you to pick one area to focus on first. Not all nine, just one. That becomes your financial priority for the next few months. This is exactly how we start when I work with practices one-on-one. We don't dump everything on the table and try to fix every problem at once. We pick the one that will relieve the most pressure and create the most clarity, and we start there. Now, let's talk about what a healthy rhythm actually looks like, because seeing the red flags is only helpful if you know what to do next. A healthy veterinary practice has a simple financial rhythm that happens whether you're exhausted or not, whether you're in a busy season or not. It's just part of how the practice runs. At a basic level, that rhythm includes regularly updating your books, reviewing a small handful of key numbers, and making one or two small decisions off of those numbers each month. That might be checking payroll percentage and making one staffing or scheduling tweak. It might be reviewing inventory spend and setting one new rule about minimums and maximums. It might be looking at your owner pay and deciding on a fixed, realistic monthly amount to start moving forward or moving towards. The point is not perfection. The point is consistency. When you have even a simple rhythm in place, those nine red flags won't sneak up on you. You start catching them while they're still yellow, while they're still manageable. If you do nothing else after this live, I want you to take one step towards a more consistent rhythm. That might mean scheduling time on your calendar to review your P&L every month. It might mean emailing your bookkeeper or accountant and asking for specific reports. It might mean assigning someone on your team to truly own inventory with clear expectations. Small, consistent steps will always beat I'll deal with this when I have time, because we both know that time never magically appears. As we wrap up, I want you to remember this. Financial red flags aren't personal failures. They're just signals. Your job as the practice owner is not to magically know all the answers. Your job is to be willing to look, to listen to what the numbers are telling you, and to get the right support to fix what isn't working. If you were listening and thinking, I know we have some of these red flags, but I don't even know where to start, that's exactly the kind of situation I help veterinarians with every day. We look at your numbers, identify your specific red flags, and build a plan that makes sense for your practice and your life, not some generic template. If you want help with that, send me a message after this live with the word red flags, and I'll follow up with you about what I could what I could look like to dig into your own numbers together, what it could look like. No pressure, no judgment, just clarity. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Whether you were here live or catching the replay, take a breath, pick your one starting point, and remember, you don't have to fix everything at once. You just have to stop ignoring what your practice has been trying to tell you. If you want help getting this set up, or you just want someone to walk through your numbers and pinpoint where the cash is leaking, you can book a free profit and cash flow analysis. We'll review your actual data, identify the gaps, and show you what's driving the issues inside your practice. You can grab a time at the link in the comments. Before you go, I want to share an incredible resource designed to elevate your veterinary practice's financial success. I put together a free ebook just for you called 7 Financial Strategies. Inside, you'll discover practical steps to increase profitability, improve cash flow, and make smarter financial decisions for your practice. You can also grab your free copy of it in the comments. All right, that's it for today. If this helped, please pass it along to a friend or vet owner who could use a clearer picture of their numbers. And if you're ready to get yours dialed in, go ahead and book that free profit and cash flow analysis. See you next week. Thank you.